Thank you, Gary, for that lovely introduction and PSA. And we're so delighted to be here. We've heard so much about this venue for so long. So thanks to Bronny, just right off the bat, thanks to Bronny and Shelley for having us, and Gary for doing sound. I know you usually do this at the end of the show, but I think it's important to acknowledge the amazing work they do right from the get-go. So we're going to start with a set of jigs. And Fallon's all tuned up here. Maybe I'll back announce them, but if he's not, I'll have to tell you a long story about them, because this instrument might take a while to tune.
More on that later.
Yeah, I think we're good, though. Here's a set of jigs, and I'll tell you more about them afterward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Such a great audience. So we started there with a tune called The Yellow Wattle. And that's a tune that I've played for many years. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. And when I was a teenager learning this music, there was a very vibrant scene in Asheville. And so that was a popular Asheville session tune. And the next two definitely were not. Those are kind of more obscure tunes. And they come from O'Neill's Book of Irish Music. Chief Francis O'Neill was the chief of police in Chicago in the late 1800s, and his life's work and passion project was compiling an anthology of Irish music. And as it just so happened, all of the other Chicago police officers were like fresh off the boat from Ireland, and so he would just go around bumming tunes off of them. I've heard even that his hiring process was based on how many tunes they were able to contribute to this.
The best kind of police corruption.
Yeah. I don't know how much crime solving they did back then, but they certainly play a lot of music. So the first tune, well, the second tune, but the first of this little part from O'Neill's is called "I Have Money in Both Pockets," in keeping with our corruption theme. And then the second, or the last tune, is called "Kelly's Jig" or "Kelly the Rake." There you have it. So we'll continue with a set of reels, and these are two reels that Alan and I actually just recorded in New Jersey, where Alan lives. He'll tell you his full life story later, but he's now in New
Silent
Jersey.
for now.
We recorded these with a great friend of ours, a great piper and flute player named Isaac Alderson, and the tunes are "Ah, Surely." There's an exclamation point there. Hopefully
Not
you can hear
Shirley.
it. Not Shirley.
Not like Shirley Temple, but
Don't call me Shirley. Yes, "Ah, Surely," "Ah, Surely," followed by the West Clare reel, which I presume is from West Clare, Ireland. So. Hold on. Too high. We'll worry about that later. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much.
It was too high. Are these those new smart mics that automatically adjust to what it thinks is the appropriate height?
No.
I guess not.
This is why I call Finn Goldilocks when we're on the road, because it's like, too high, too short. He's looking for the just right,
I won't tell you what I call Alan on the road. It's not. There could be.
I never make.
There
his
could be
oatmeal
kids
form.
watching.
Yeah. We're gonna.
Please.
I had to cut off his next joke. It's not worth it.
Smart idea.
Yeah. I'm going to carry on with a song this time. I grew up in Scotland. I live in New Jersey, as Finn mentioned now, but I grew up in Scotland, and I'm going to start with a Scottish song. It's one written by John Connolly and Bill Meek, two great heroes of the kind of folk scene in Scotland. And it's a fishing song about pretty much about growing up when you basically followed the career of your family, of your father, and probably your whole village. When it comes to, I think pretty much when it comes to fishing and farming, it's kind of the two industries that maybe still have that kind of connection and passed on from down the family. And all he ever wanted was to get out in the boats, so he had to start at the age of 15, and pretty much the lowest rung on the ladder, and work his way up through his whole life. And it's called The Men of the Sea, and it names a lot of great places in the North Sea. Makes it sound very glamorous, which is not. But you can imagine. At the age of 15, I stepped out from the harbour, my very first trip for the Silver Pit's bound. I was galley boy, messman, the lowest of callings, but at last I was off to the trawl fishing ground. Fair Isle to Labrador, Bear Island, Norway, and cold Greenland shore, learning to trade with the men of the sea. Long years as a deckie, I hauled for a living. I danced on the deck through the wild Arctic gales. Knew the tiger of fear as the cold sea swept o'er me. You soon learned the truth to the old trawling tales. Fair Isle to Labrador, Bear Island, Norway, and cold Greenland shore, learning to trade with the men of the sea. Now in between trips, well, the town couldn't hold me. A 2-day tycoon with a head full of rum, a girl on each arm, and a pocket soon empty. Live now and pay later, there's hard days to come. Fair Isle to Labrador, Bear Island, Norway, and cold Greenland shore, learning to trade with the men of the sea. Now I know every hull as it tops the horizon. I've learned all the tricks to the trawl fishing trade. Know the sea as provider, betrayer and taker, but I've got my mate's ticket, my future is made. As a skipper at last I stand tall on the dockside, from the boy to the man, to the master of men. And the ocean is mine as we slip from the harbour and out to the sea to start learning again. Oh, Fair Isle to Labrador, Bear Island, Norway, and cold Greenland shore, learning to trade with the men of the sea. Fair Isle to Labrador, Bear Island, Norway, and cold Greenland shore, learning to trade with the men of the sea. Learning to to trade with the man of the sea. Learning to trade with the man of the sea. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's Alan Murray, ladies and gentlemen. He's
Thank
good.
You, thank you.
He's one of the good ones. All right, we are going to continue with a waltz that I wrote. And I wrote this for a friend of mine named Harry, and I wrote it for him and his hospitality. You know, as a musician, when you're... The only way this like really works as a career is the generosity of others, which we're so grateful for. And I always want to mention that because it literally is how this is possible. And Harry is one of those gracious hosts who will put up any musician. FCC appropriate. And we're back.
Call me?
And we're back. Anyway, that's how I met Alan. Did you get all that? That must have been the part that they lost sound. Okay, so Harry's House is the name of this tune. And let's see, we're going to follow it with an old-time tune. I grew up in Western North Carolina where there was a lot of great old-time music, and so sort of inevitably, against my will, I had to learn a lot of that stuff as well. But I grew to love it. I don't know. Now I'm so grateful. At the time, you know, as a 10-year-old, you take some of this stuff for granted. But I got to play with a lot of my heroes at a young age. So I didn't learn this particular tune from them. But anyway, I think of like Dirk Powell and Bruce Molsky, people like that. When I play the tune we're about to play, which is "Walk Along John to Kansas." And I'm not exactly sure where I got this version, but we were just playing this today with our friend Cameron DeWitt, who runs an amazing podcast, which you should check out. It's called Get Up in the Cool, and it's an old-time podcast. It's on iTunes, and he has a Patreon, and it's just amazing. So definitely check out Get Up in the Cool. That's my PSA. Okay, Harry's House, Walk Along John to Kansas.
Oh,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Maybe
Now we
should
know
do
what you
one,
like.
right? All right. We're going to shift gears entirely now and go to Brazil, I believe. Is that part of the show?
Yeah, this is the world tour.
It's the world tour. We're working our way down latitudinally. Is that an adverb? From Ireland to Appalachia and now to Brazil. I lived in Brazil for 2 years. I married a Brazilian woman and got to live there in Rio for 2 years. And it was an amazing experience for many reasons, but usually what I remember most about any place I go is the music, just kind of the way my brain works. And Rio has a lot of amazing music, including a kind of music that I really didn't know anything about called choro. Has anyone heard of choro? So it's spelled C-H-O-R-O, choro. And
I thought it was like the cinnamon stick thing with like.
a churro, that. Choro literally, in Portuguese, it literally means I cry, or a cry. And there's a lot of theories as to why the genre is called that. I've heard that it's such an emotive music. The music could be very happy. It's not necessarily completely depressing like Irish music is. So, I mean, it's kind of true, at least with the songs. But choro comes from Rio in the 1870s. So it's originally it was a fusion of European dance music and African music, which we had of course, but in Brazil it became something completely different. Same ingredients, different chef maybe. So we have choro music, and because of choro we have samba, bossa nova. A lot of the Brazilian genres that we're more familiar with all come from choro. So I know, right? It's cool. And choro is still played. It's actually really big in the Northwest, believe it or not. There's one of 2 choro camps in Port Townsend. The other one's in Massachusetts, I think. But it's called the Centrum Choro Camp. And I could go on and on about this, and I don't want to lose too many of our live stream audience. So if you're really curious, message me. I'm on the socials. I'd be happy to talk your ear off about choro music. But I'm going to play a little bit of it anyway, and just give you a sense of what it sounds like. And I thought I would play a tune by one of the most important choro composers, a guy named Jacob de Bandolim. So his first name was Jacob, like Jacob, do Bandolim, and so it basically means Jacob of the mandolin. In Brazil, it's very common. First of all, everyone has a nickname. Whether you want a nickname or not, you have a nickname in Brazil, and probably several. And if you're a musician, that nickname tends to do with the instrument that you play. So he was Jacob de Bandolim because he played the bandolim, which is a mandolin. It's a Brazilian mandolin. Kind of looks like this, actually, but it's essentially the same instrument. I go by my middle name mostly, Finn. So in Brazil, my name was Fim do Violino, which in Portuguese means the end of the violin. But as I said, you don't get to choose your nickname, so I was stuck with that one. Anyway, so Jacob de Bandolim wrote this tune. This is probably the more sadder part of choro, but it's a tune called Vibrações, vibrations. And it's just a beautiful piece of music. I'm going to do a little intro to start, and then I'll dive into the tune. Gary, feel free to crank up the reverb a little bit on this if you want.
Make them cry. Make them cry.
Set it to cry. Now we're talking.
That's Finn Magill, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to carry on with another song here because jigs and reels won't sound as good right after that one. I'm going to sing another Scottish song, actually. So anyone familiar with any Scottish music or anything about Scotland has probably heard of Robert Burns before. He's our national poet and writer. And here's a song of his that at least he claimed. He was a bit notorious for maybe stealing things, taking credit for things that weren't exactly his. But a song called "The Soldier's Return," which tells a great story that has been used in thousands of other songs for some reason. But a soldier going off to war and been gone forever, and he's coming back, and he is wondering if his old flame might still be lit for him. And so he basically sees a girl in the garden, and he puts on a funny voice or hides behind a bush, pulls his hood over his face or something, and basically starts chatting up this girl, and sees if she's still faithful and all that. And of course she's always like, no, I've got a true love. He's away fighting, and always 7 years for some reason. But no, even if he doesn't come home, I'll still wait for him, and blah 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 blah. And then of course, surprise, it's me, and happily ever after. It's the only happy songs we have, so it's the same one over and over again, basically. This one's just wordier than the other versions. Anyway, it's a nice version. I hope you like it. When wild war's deadly blast was blown, and gentle peace returning, with many a poor babe fatherless, and many a widow mourning, I left the lines and tented fields, where long I'd been a lodger, my humble knapsack all my wealth, a poor but honest soldier. While a little light heart was in my breast, my hands unstained from plunder, and for fair Scotia home again, I cheery on did wander. I thought upon the bags of coin, I thought upon my Nancy, I thought upon her witching smile that caught my youthful fancy. Well, a little piece the bonny glen, where in my youth I sported. I passed the mill and the Tristan thorn, where Nancy oft I courted. Respite I bought my own dear maid, down by her mammy's dwelling. They turned me round to hide the flood that in my eye was swelling. With an altered voice said I, sweet lass, sweet as a hawthorn's blossom, how happy, happy must he be, who's dearest to thy bosom. My purse is light and a far to go, if I would be your lodger. I've served my country long and far, take pity on a poor young soldier. So wistfully she gazed about, and lovelier than ever. Says she, a soldier once I loved, and forget him shall I never. Our humble cot and homely fare, you freely shall partake of, for the gallant badge and the dear cockade, you're welcome for the sake of. While she gazed and reddened like a rose, but pale as any lily, she sank into my arms and cried, are you my own dear Willie? Well, the war is over and I've come home, and found you still true-hearted. I am the man, and thus may still true lovers be rewarded. Thank you. Thirsty work. There's a lot of words in that song. Would you believe I cut out like 3 verses from that as well?
All right, we're gonna finish this first set with a set of reels. Gotta look at my cheat sheet here. Maybe Alan knows. Oh yes. And then we're gonna take a little break. 10-minute break for 15 minutes or so, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Gotta say that. I'm saying that for our online viewers, because you go get something from the fridge and never come back. We have a whole other set of music, so don't go anywhere. But we'll finish here with 3 reels. The Old Bush, one of my favorite tunes, great little pipe tune. And then Andy McGann's, which is associated with the person I'm actually named after. So my name is Andrew Finn Magill, and my dad was obsessed with Andy McGann, and he thought maybe I would go by Andy, and maybe I would learn the fiddle, and maybe learn Irish music, and then he could listen to Andy McGann for the rest of his life. I'm not really sure of the whole plan, but I go by my middle name, Finn, so joke's on him. But the last tune, I think a dryer.
Or something,
Okay. And then the last tune is the Mossy Banks. And then we're going to take a little break. So
We do have some CDs for sale, of course, out in the lobby area, the wee table around this way.
we also have a mailing list, which is funny because we're not going to mail you anything. But we will.
Unless you really ask nicely,
You have to give us your address for that to happen. But no, it's for our little email newsletter, and you'll find out about when we're going to be back in Portland, or you'll find about where we're going to be all over the place. We go all over the place. So, and we also are constantly recording things and putting out little music videos and things like that. And so anyway, sign up for that if you want to keep in touch.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in a
Thank
few
you.
minutes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, hello, hello. Did we all have a lovely break? Excellent.
We're gonna play a blast of reels.
Surprise, surprise. Yep. sound? Thanks so much, anyway. That was a last tune. There is a great tune that we picked up from the great fiddle player Tommy Peoples, and it's he denies ever writing it, but it's attributed to him because people close to him say like, no, he did write it. He just didn't claim that one. But great tune nonetheless.
Tommy denies writing all the tunes that we know are his. And in fact, one time I asked him, I was like, Tommy, it's like, what's the name of that tune? And he was like, oh, that tune, that's called McGill's Jig. I was like, Tommy, come on. I know that tune's not called McGill's Jig, but I'll take it.
That's pretty funny. So I'm going to try another song here. So, as I said, I grew up in Scotland. I live in New Jersey now. I actually just moved to New Jersey a few months ago. And I moved to a town called Montclair. And I found out that one of my all-time heroes actually lives in Montclair. I haven't found his house yet, but I will likely go and, hang out around his trash can or something and see if I can run into him. A gentleman by the name of Richard Thompson, if anyone's heard of him. Good guy to stalk, right? Yeah.
You just have to look for the crowd of all the other guys with bazookies lurking around the mailbox.
Actually, knowing my luck, my girlfriend will just run into him in Whole Foods and start chatting away, and they'll become best friends. She already actually knows his sound guy, apparently. So, but anyway, I'm going to do a Richard Thompson song for you now. He was in a band called Fairport Convention, which he started, a founding member of when he was like in the late 60s. And he was in the band for a few years, and then he went on to a solo career. So he put out an album called Henry the Human Fly, and this was one of the songs on the album. It's a beautiful little kind of bitter love song called The Poor Ditching Boy. Was a river went to so cold and so sad, a river too weary to flood. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood. I was looking for trouble to tangle my line, but trouble came looking for me. I was standing on treacherous ground, sinking too fast to run free, with her scheming idle ways. She left me poor enough. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood. I would not be asking, or would not be seen, begging on a mountain or hill. But I'm ready and blind with my hands tied behind, but neither mine nor a will, with a scheming idle ways. She left me poor enough. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood. So it's better than need of the poor ditching boy. He'll always Tell him it's hard to be honest and true. Doesn't mind if he doesn't get paid. With the scheming, idle ways, she left me poor enough. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood with her scheming, idle ways. She left me poor enough. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood. The storm and the wind cut through to my skin, but she cut through to my blood. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Alan Murray, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you. You make it sound like dozens.
All right. Does anyone out there know who Mike Rafferty was? All right, one person. Oh, I see a hand back there. Mike Rafferty was a great flute player from East Galway. He had a wonderful East Galway style. They have a very specific flute style, and I suppose fiddle style from East Galway. And he happened to be in charge of the cultist branch when I was a youngster, learning Irish music and going over to Ireland and competing. So I got to meet him a few times, share some tunes with him. And this first tune comes from his playing. It's called The New Broom. And we introduced this the other night, and we did not know this, but evidently broom is an invasive species up here. You say that so defeatedly. We're sorry.
Sorry. It's a nice tune.
It's a nice tune, you know. It's like that's the trick of Irish music. You take this like very oppressive colonialist history and famine and all that, and then write lyrics about it in really happy keys, and somehow masks how bad it is. But anyway, so we're gonna play The New Broom and then go into two reels after that, called Dogs Among the Bushes and Garrett Berries.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This is just so much fun. I can't tell you. We're going to continue with two tunes that I wrote. This first tune I wrote for Brazilian uilleann piper, which I know sounds curious. One of my first friends when I moved to Rio de Janeiro, actually I hadn't even moved there yet. I was just sort of sightseeing, learning Portuguese, escaping New York winter, and I lived in New York at the time. But I soon met this guy named Alex, who was a surfer dude until he heard the soundtrack to the movie Rob Roy. And he was like, I must learn that, whatever that is. He had never played a single musical instrument in his life, and he chose to learn the uilleann pipes, which, wow, is all I can say. So he went to Ireland. He thought he could pick it up in a few months. 2 years later, I guess they kicked him out. So he ended up moving back to Brazil, but obsessed with uilleann pipes, and he's kind of made a career for himself down there playing Irish music. He was even the cultus head branch for Brazil. Cultus, I alluded to them earlier when I was talking about Mike Rafferty. They're sort of like the international organization whose mission is to preserve traditional Irish music, and they have branches all over the world, from Japan to New York to maybe here, I don't know, but they should. And so anyway, Alex saved up for 20 years to be able to buy a full set of pipes, which he finally did a few years ago. So I wrote him a tune, Alex's New Pipes. That's the story of the first tune. The story of the second tune, it was written for a woman named Lily Hardy, who is a fiddle player and painter from Augusta, Georgia. So this is for Lily and her paintings, and it's called Lily's Colors.
Thank you so much. We've got time for one more song. Before I do that, I want to make sure, does everyone know what on earth this is that I'm playing, basically? No, it's not a mandolin. I know one person here knows very well, so he's not allowed to answer. But for anyone who's not sure, this is called a bouzouki. It's originally a Greek instrument, and it was adopted into Irish music in the 1970s. For no other reason that a couple of Irish guys were on their holidays and thought they were cool and bought the cheapest ones they could find in the gift shop in Athens, probably on their way home, and brought them back to Ireland to annoy all their friends for a few years until they learned how to play them properly. During that time, the instruments that they brought over promptly fell apart by means of exploding because the climate difference between lovely, dry, arid Athens and the dampness of Ireland just overwhelmed these poor, unsuspecting instruments, and they just went boop, basically. So a couple of instrument builders kind of tweaked the design a bit, and the first thing they did was, the Greek instruments have a big round back on them, and the first thing they did was get rid of the round back, because I think something to do with the Guinness and the belly, you know, round on round doesn't go very well, so something had to go, and it wasn't the Guinness. And it's been popularized by a lot of people. Kind of too many to name, but it's now pretty much a common enough instrument in folk music from Ireland and Scotland and England and even over into Scandinavia and Breton music and Galician music and through to the Canadian American folk traditions as well. So pretty common these days, and it's great for singing. So anyway, Greek instrument, a Scottish guy playing Irish music with an American guy up here. So I'm going to sing a song that I sang on St. Patrick's Day last year, which was in France, at a wine cellar. That was my gig for St. Patrick's Day. Not bad. But I was trying to think of a song that would be appropriate to sing there, and the only song I could think about wine was a song from a band called the McCalmans, and the song's called Smugglers. And it's about, as you can imagine, smuggling booze. Particularly smuggling booze from the west coast of Scotland, the islands out in the west coast of Scotland, all the way down to France, filling up the boat with wine, and then coming back the long way in the middle of the night so that you could avoid the tax man. Pretty smart. Us Scots, you know, we like a bargain when we find one. But if anyone knows Scotland, you know, Scotland is pretty evenly a Christian country, but it's pretty split between the Protestant and the Catholics, and then, you know, all the in-betweens and the other folks. But the West Coast and those islands are pretty staunchly Protestant. It's kind of our Bible Belt in Scotland. So, of course, in the song, the first thing you have to do when you get back is go to church and repent your sins for smuggling all this booze back. So if you have a listen to the last verse, you'll get that.
Boat right south of Elsa Craig and the waning of the light. There's 30 men in Lindell fit to make our burdens light, and sturdy horse in Hazel home with halters on their heads. I'll set this night upon yon height, if wind and water speed, Smugglers drink of the Frenchman's wine, and darkest night is a smuggler's time. Away we run from the excise man. It's a smuggler's life for me. It's a smuggler's life for me. When that's a cozy bed and cattle you attend, so could you no live a lawful life, live with a lawful man? Or must I live with homely goods when the foreign gear's a fine? And must I drink from the waterside when France is so full of wine? Smugglers drink of the Frenchman's wine, and darkest night is a smuggler's time. Away we run from the excise man. It's a smuggler's life for me. It's a smuggler's life for me. Smugglers drink of the Frenchman's wine, and darkest night is a smuggler's time. Away we run from the excise man. It's a smuggler's life for me. It's a smuggler's life for me. Now when at last the sun comes up and the cargo is safely stored, like sinless saints to church we'll go, God's mercy to afford, with the champagne fine for communion wine, 'cause the parson drinks it too, and with a sly wink says, forgive these men, they know not what they do. Smugglers drink of the Frenchman's wine, and darkest night is a smuggler's time. Away we run from the excise man. It's a smuggler's life for me. 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 Thank you. I would cheers you, but I'm empty.
Well, thank you all so much for coming out this evening and for tuning in online to all our viewers out there. And we're just so grateful to be here. We want to thank a few people. Bronnie, who couldn't be here. She wasn't feeling well, but we knew you were watching at home, Bronnie. So thank you. Thank you, Bronnie. Thank you, Shelley, who also wasn't feeling well. So we hope both of them get well soon. We also want to thank Gary on sound. Thanks, Gary. And Steve, who was taking tickets at the door. And we want to thank you all for coming out. This would be very awkward if you didn't. So
Live music is a two-way street. We need people to play to, so.
Once again, this is Alan Murray.
Thank you. And Finn Magill, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Well, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Also, I didn't say this because, sorry, I didn't get her name, but our bartender, don't forget to tip her.
Yes.
Thanks for...
Absolutely.
We're going to do you one last official set. And maybe, since someone just said encore, I don't know. We'll do you 2 jigs. Thank you so much, Steve. Of course. It's a pleasure. We'll play you 2 jigs. Let's see. Charlie Mulvihill's into Made at the Well, and Langton's favorite, A Reel to Go at the End. And yeah, that's our show. So Thank you once again. Tell your friends we're playing in the Dowels tomorrow. If you go to my website, you can learn more, or just follow me on Instagram to learn more about that show. We also have a mailing list back there. I'll just say that one more time in case you missed it the first time. And yeah, hope to see you again in Portland. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We hope to be back. Thank you.
circling around our twin white pines. So I took a step back, and there high in the tree